Welcome, brave souls, to Beechworth Lunatic Asylum, where the past still echoes with madness. From electroshock horrors to ghostly patients, this asylum hides a chilling legacy that won't stay buried. If you dare to listen, like and subscribe to Phantom Tale for more spine-chilling tales. Let's dive in. By the late 1860s in Australia, Victoria's only mental institution was bursting at the seams with mentally ill patients. In response, the Mayday Hills Lunatic Asylum was open to house and treat up to 1,200 patients. Getting admitted was a simple affair, requiring only 2 signatures from friends or relatives who wanted you locked up. Getting out was much more difficult. Later renamed the Beechworth Lunatic Asylum, Mayday Hills was open for 128 years and brings with it a history of strange medical practices and care. The first superintendent himself may have been a bit off. He believed that the moon caused insanity and refused to go outside at nighttime without an umbrella. Housing a mixture of 600 men and 600 women, the Beechworth Lunatic Asylum was almost always full, though whether the patients deserved to be there is a different story. Many of the patents were not actually clinically insane. In order to leave the hospital, a patient would need 8 signatures certifying that they were fit for the outside world. Most of the doctors, nurses, and caretakers at Beechworth viewed their patients as liabilities beyond cure, and lacked the care and compassion of today's caregivers. As a result, many completely sane people spent their lives locked in Beechworth's expansive wards. While freedom might have been a futile endeavor, access to the latest treatments for insanity were in abundance. Beechworth was equipped with the latest tools for handling and treating the insane. Doctors had access to a fully equipped lab for operations, autopsies, and any other experiments they might like to try. The shelves of the lab were said to be filled with jars of body parts from unlucky patients, though after a fire had damaged the ward, the jars were removed. Before the 1950s, psychiatric medication was unavailable, so shackles and straitjackets were often used to help control patients' aggressive and unruly behavior. The Grevillea wing of the hospital was home to the electroshock treatment facility, an incredibly routine treatment for the clinically insane. No one would dream of treating a patient with electroshock therapy today. The shocks were strong, and often forced the patient's bodies to contract into unnatural positions, snapping bones, ligaments, and teeth in the process. For good reason, the Grevillea wing was the part of the hospital that all patients feared most, and stories still circulate about mass treatments where almost everyone in the hospital was shocked in group sessions. If they weren't insane before, they certainly were afterwards. No one seems to know exactly how many patients died in the Beechworth Lunatic Asylum, though it's estimated to be between 3,000 and 9,000. Most left this world as victims of their illness, wasting away, taking their own lives, or suffering the effects of aggressive treatments. The less troubled and more docile patients died of old age, though a few deaths were a lot more suspicious. An example of this was the death of a nameless Jewish woman, committed to the women's wing of Beechworth. She kept to herself mostly, and didn't cause any trouble as long as she had her cigarettes. People would most often find her sitting in a high-story window, smoking. One day, another patient wanted to have some of her cigarettes. Maybe they asked politely at first, no one could say. But the woman was never one for sharing, and wouldn't give any up. One thing led to another, and suddenly, the Jewish woman found herself tumbling out the window to her death. No one knows what ultimately became of the other patient, but everyone remembers what happened to the Jewish woman. They left her body lying in the grass for 2 days before moving her. You see, in Jewish tradition, no one is allowed to touch the deceased until a rabbi has seen the body. Since the closest rabbi had to come all the way from Melbourne, the woman's gruesome end was a sight for all to see for more than 48 hours. It's possible the woman didn't appreciate such a steadfast observance of her religious beliefs. In more recent years, many have reported seeing the eerie outline of a woman lurking where her body fell so many years before. Others claim to have seen a woman's face in the window where she loved to sit and smoke. Escaping from Beechworth was nearly impossible, though that didn't stop people from trying. The most unruly patients were locked in cells, while the others were kept on the grounds by twistedly named ha-ha walls, high-trenched walls that no patient could ever hope to climb. Despite these securities, one man disappeared from the compound long ago. The asylum staff and surrounding community searched desperately to find him. No one wanted a committed lunatic roaming the streets. Eventually, they had to give him up as lost. Then, several weeks after they abandoned the search, someone found the asylum's pet dog, Max, happily gnawing on a meaty bone. On closer inspection, Max's snack was the remains of a human leg. The asylum staff conducted another search by the gatehouse where the leg was found. A suspicious-looking shadow and horrific smell helped the searchers uncover the patient's body. In a tree. His body had managed to decompose so much that his leg had fallen to the ground for Max to find. No one ever discovered how the patient actually died in the tree, but many since claim to have seen the man's ghost lurking near the asylum's entrance. He never did get out. An active asylum for 128 years, Beechworth was witness to a lot of pain and suffering by patients before it was decommissioned in 1995. Now, it has been partially converted into a satellite campus for La Trobe University, a hotel, and a tour facility. However, many parts, including the Grevillea wing, home to the electroshock facility, have been left unused and dilapidated. Since most of the asylum has been transformed and is now full of guests, paranormal sightings are everywhere. Matron Sharp was once a caretaker at the asylum and has been spotted by so many witnesses that she can't be ignored. In life, she was known for her compassionate care of patients, which was uncharacteristic in her time. In death, she seems to be carrying on her routine. Matron Sharp is most often seen with patients in the Grevillea wing, comforting them before electroshock therapy. Those who spot her often feel calm and comforted, despite the overwhelming chill that fills the room. That said, it's probably easier for Matron Sharp to comfort a person who's just seen a ghost than a patient who's about to get the shock of his life. The asylum's recreation hall was one of the few places where patients could relax, perform plays and concerts, and attend Sunday Mass. In 1939, it was converted into a cinema for inmates. As one of the few places that regularly brought joy to the lives of prisoners, it makes sense that they would visit the recreation hall in death. What doesn't make any sense is that the most commonly cited specter in the wing is a desperate-looking young girl who approaches people and tries to talk to them. Others have seen the ghost of an elderly man gazing longingly out of the window in the bell tower. Clearly, Beechworth's history holds a lot more than meets the eye, as some of the former inmates are trying to communicate. Even more disturbing is that despite the fact that the asylum was only for adults, numerous workers at Beechworth have heard the distinct sounds of children laughing throughout the hospital, but were never able to track down where the voices were coming from. Others claim to have felt someone pulling on their clothes and poking them in the ribs in the Bijou Theater. What secrets does this asylum hold that children would choose to linger in such a place? Or maybe they can't leave. Tours of the hospital never fail to spook someone. Guests often describe seeing a serious-looking man following them through the halls. Behind the man, two other strange figures follow, joking and laughing. Some say the serious man is a former doctor. That makes sense with his stern attitude. He could be one of the therapists, pondering his next experimental treatment on his way to the laboratory. But the identities of the laughing men following him remain a mystery. Guests of the hotel also frequently report hearing footsteps in the hallway that belong to no one and tapping on the old glass windows. Beechworth is a haunting ground for doctors, patients, and workers alike. Not spooked enough? The Beechworth Ghost Tour is the most popular in mainland Australia. Go and see for yourself.